Yo, today about to be reacting to Lil Wayne's 2000 run changed hip hop forever. Hey man, once upon a time, Lil Wayne was he's still considered one of the greatest rappers. Top 3, top 5, top 10, wherever you put him in that aspect, that's your decision. But let's see what he's talking about.
If I were to tell you Lil Wayne is the best rapper out right now, you might probably laugh at me.
Yeah.
But if I were to tell you he wasn't the best rapper of the 2000s, you might look at me crazy. Because Lil Wayne running hip hop was undeniable, from his early days rapping for Birdman before he was even legally allowed to drive, to dominating the screens of BET and the mixtapes. Don't even get me started about the mixtape catalog. Lil Wayne was basically 93 Michael Jordan during that era, RIP to that Piff era. So for better or worse, Lil Wayne is one of the rappers responsible for the current landscape of hip-hop right now, from influencing the looks of your favorite dreadhead rapper to signing the biggest name in our times. So in this video, we break down Lil Wayne's legendary run in the 2000s.
Ain't that crazy though, bro? Lil Wayne put on Drake. Drake hit his baby. Drake hit his girl. That's while he was in jail. That's overly messed up, bro.
How he became a household name. But every story begins somewhere, and Lil Wayne's story began in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1994. After recovering at the age of 12 from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, Lil Wayne decided to take his dream of becoming a rapper seriously, linking up with a local New Orleans rapper to form the duo the Bee Gees, which would become ultimately a stepping stone for their real break when they themselves joined the group the Hot Boys. Being signed to a New Orleans legend who made his money hustling in the streets, then invested his money into forming a record label with his brothers. I'm talking about the one and only Brian Baby Williams, but you better know him as Birdman. And Birdman with his record label Cash Money Records would create the sound of a generation, at one point being the most recognizable record label in the world. Now Baby saw something special in Lil Wayne and would take the young rapper under his wing and eventually would make him a solo act. Lil Wayne would go on to drop his solo debut album The Block Is Hot, released in November 2nd, 1999, when he was just 17 years old, and just some months after the release, the album would go on to become certified platinum.
Really?
It's got the attention of hip.
I really didn't know Lil Wayne was a hot boy. I guess it's a history lesson for all of us. If you
magazine The Source, which
what they do? I gotta kill a spider, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Manly duties. Hold on. Where's that?
Get it before she do. It was on the toilet. It should be on the floor now. You see it? Was it big?
Yeah.
Don't bring it over here.
It's dead. Dead spider. Dead nigga. Alright.
label Lil Wayne as the best new artist of that year, back when The Source magazine was at the forefront of everything hip-hop. Lil Wayne would go on to drop more solo albums, and at this point his label mates could see the early signs of him being positioned as the face of Cash Money Records, dropping his second studio album Lights Out in the year 2000, then his third studio album 500 Degrees in 2002, building up his catalog and name recognition. At this point Lil Wayne would only be 20 years old and already had out more music than your favorite rapper, and we haven't even gotten to the go ones yet, because it would be his fourth studio album released June 29, 2004 that would change everything, and people didn't know it then, but Lil Wayne would go on the run of his life and become the biggest name in hip-hop.
Man,
I'm talking about
the was a time to be alive. Y'all see the cars? I mean, I wasn't a fan of the clothes, but the cars, they store Chevy Impala on some big ass rims, bro.
The Carter. Now the Carter changed everything for Lil Wayne. Being in the game now for a decade, many critics believe that the Carter was a step above his previous projects, laying out the foundations of the rap style that we will now associate with Lil Wayne, famously revealing that he doesn't write down his own lyric, which yes was common practice at the time, with rappers like Jay-Z admitting to doing the same, making it seem like everything comes straight off the dome, which led to some hilarious moment when interviewees would recite Lil Wayne lyrics to him and Lil Wayne would be surprised that he said that. But it wouldn't be just in the music that Lil Wayne was.
I'm not even surprised. This Lil Wayne made so much music. You expect him to remember every song that he made, bro? Every lyric that he made. That's actually crazy for you to
setting trends, because if we look at the cover of the album, Lil Wayne would be rocking his iconic dreads in full display, which inspired a generation of rappers to get dreads, dye them, and everything in between. It all started here, going on to sell over 100,000 copies in his lifetime and collaborating with more recognizable artists at the time like T.I. Lil Wayne was starting to be one of the more recognizable acts coming out of the South. Then just a year later, he would follow up the success of the Carter album with his sequels, The Carter 2, which would go on to sell 238,000 first week and debut at number 2 on
That
the
boy was
Billboard
hitting, wasn't he?
200s. Following the success of this album, he would be named the president of Cash Money Records and make his own record label, Young Money Entertainment, that would fall under the Cash Money umbrella. I know Birdman was just in the back counting the money from the dividends of his investment in Lil Wayne early on. So after the success of the Carter 1 and the Carter 2 and them being dropped a year after each other, you think the Carter 3 would follow the same trend, right? I mean, it didn't, but little did we know at the time it would set a new trend of delays and roadblocks that would prevent the release of not just the Carter 3 but every other Carter album that would come out after this.
Really?
However, instead of just leaving his fans dry until he released the Carter 3, Lil Wayne decided to lock in and drop what would many consider to be the best body of work he would have, his mixtapes. Dropping his iconic The Drought series, which started to receive so much attention that even
I don't know nothing about this. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, putting me on game. I didn't know Lil Wayne had this much music in his catalog. I thought YoungBoy had a lot of music, but I mean, he's on track. If YoungBoy didn't make as much money, I mean, as much music as Lil Wayne, he's on a track to doing so. But that's crazy.
Media was covering the mixtapes and considered them to be some of the best albums of the year. That's right, Lil Wayne's mixtapes were being considered some of the best albums of 2007. Mind you, around this time, 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Kanye West were still actively dropping music.
Really?
But it wouldn't be until 2008 that we would get another installment of the Carter series 3 years after the release of the Carter 2, but now Lil Wayne was even more of a bigger star after the many mixtapes and collaboration that he did in between these two albums, which is why the Carter 3 sold over 1 million copies first week. That's right, it did 4 times the sales of its previous album, and it did all the sales of the Carter 1 in just 1 week that it did over its lifetime. And being the first album in 3 years to sell over 1 million copies, the last one being 50 Cent's The Massacre in 2005. The Carter 3 would be such a hit that in just a month it would be double platinum, and in that year's Grammy it would go on to win 4 Grammys, Best Rap Album and Best Rap Song being among those 4. And before the year ended, it would go on to triple in sales, selling over 3 million copies in half a year. Lil Wayne was definitely moving those units. And at this point, by some, Lil Wayne was already considered the best rapper alive, with singles like Lollipop, A Milli, Mr. Carter, and Got Money. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing at least one Lil Wayne track. And in 2009, Lil Wayne decided it was time to...
Alright, let's see, bro. I don't know you, don't know you, don't know you, don't know you, don't know you. Nicki, I think that's Nicki. Let's just say that's Nicki and Drake. Nicki and Drake, iconic.
Ban the Empire.
Hey man, he shot 2 for like 8.
Before we go forward in the story, we have to hit reverse and go a bit back to 2007. You see, a young Canadian rapper and a former kid actor going by the name Drake just dropped his second mixtape, Comeback Season, which after sampling and keeping a Lil Wayne verse in it, landed the young rapper a spot in the Carter 3 tour, where the duo would go on to collaborate on tracks of their own. However, Drake wasn't the only act being discovered by Lil Wayne around this time, because it was also in 2007 after watching an underground rap DVD, The Come Up Volume 11, where Lil Wayne would see a music video for the track Click Clack, which grabbed his attention so much that he would immediately get in contact with the rapper of that video and ask her to join his crew. And that rapper was none other than New York local Nicki Minaj, who was building up her name in the New York underground scene. But if we're talking about Drake and Nicki Minaj, we need to talk about the last
female artist. One time, I'm gonna have to get that to Nicki. She got bars. She can out-rap any woman in the industry. Let's be real here. Yeah. I'm gonna give it to Nicki, bro. If you ain't giving it to Nicki, who you giving it to? Cardi B, Glorilla. What's that? Remy Ma, man, get out of here, bro. Nicki got it.
Puzzle, because it was also in 2007, which I'm now starting to see was a very productive year for Lil Wayne. While performing at the MTV Music Awards, he performed with the Fall Out Boys, where he performed a track with the bassist of the group New Signees, Tyga, which being signed under the bassist of the Fall Out Boy, Tyga would sometimes perform with them, but little did he know that just a year later he would leave that contract and sign under Lil Wayne's Young Money Entertainment. So now, controlling the careers of a young Drake, Nicki Minaj, and Tyga, in December of 2009, Lil Wayne would reveal his newly formed group with the compilation album We Are Young Money. And although, if I'm being honest with you, most of these rappers in that group fell off, it cemented and elevated the careers of Drake, Nicki Minaj, and Tyga. And after getting that Lil Wayne stamp of approval, these artists would go on to dominate in hip-hop and go on to have legendary runs of their...
Shout out Wayne, bro. If we didn't have Wayne, we wouldn't have a lot of the greatest music now. I don't know what music would look like if he didn't put Drake and Nicki Minaj on. Tyga, he got like 2-3 songs, but Drake and Nicki, they really took advantage.
Being known as the pillars of rap, yes, even Tyga. Now, am I glazing? Yes, but am I wrong though? No. So now, 3 albums into the Carter series and the formation of Young Money, Lil Wayne was moving like the Miami Heats of that time. And just like the Miami Heats, his reign would also come to an end. You see, in 2009, Lil Wayne revealed that the Carter 4 was dropping before the holidays that year. Little did we know we wouldn't get the Carter 4 until August of 2011, making another 3-year gap in between his critically acclaimed series. And while yes, he did drop albums in between the release of the Carter 2 and 3 and now the Carter 3 and 4, the patterns of delay were starting to show. And while Lil Wayne's career still moved past this, soon everything will come to a boil, but for now Lil Wayne was still on top. And now with his potential 3 successors under his wing, Young Money Entertainment would go on to dominate hip-hop, with Lil Wayne at the forefront collaborating with not just hip-hop's greatest but also venture into other genres. However, Lil Wayne would hit a major roadblock in his career in 2010. You see, Lil Wayne would see himself behind bars, being charged with weapon possession. And while doing a bit behind bars would hinder the career of any rapper, Lil Wayne is not any rapper. That's why on September 27, 2010, on his 28th birthday, Lil Wayne would go on to drop his 8th studio album, I Am Not a Human Being, going on to sell 953,000. Lil Wayne would be the first rapper since Tupac to have a #1 album while being locked up. However, being behind bars, Lil Wayne felt that the Carter 4 sounded outdated or didn't reflect it.
So, this is what I'm saying. The 90s had Tupac, the 2000s had Lil Wayne, the 2010s had Drake, and the 2020s had Young Boy. Hey man, that's how I see it.
Of his current music, so he decided to re-record the whole album from scratch when he got out. Which, if we're being honest, he should have done for another album that got delayed into oblivion, but we haven't got that far into the future yet. Everything would lead to the release of the Carter 4 being delayed yet again, and even rumors of Lil Wayne retiring. But just when fans thought that we were never getting the Carter 4, Lil Wayne dropped one of his most iconic mixtapes, Sorry for the Wait, in hope to please fans' anticipation while he reworked the album. And just a month after Sorry for the Wait, Lil Wayne finally delivered the Carter 4 to 964,000 first week. It may not be much compared to the sales of the Carter 3, but this album would be dropped around the same time as Kanye's and Jay-Z's Watch the Throne, and Lil Wayne outsold both of them by himself, having bangers like 6 Foot, 7 Foot, President Carter, and even throwing some pop into the mix with Bruno Mars' Mirrors. Lil Wayne was still him in 2011, which is why it broke fans' heart just a year later when he reveals the Carter 5 would be his last album and that he would be retiring. However, he wouldn't just leave the game hanging, because those 3 artists that he discovered in 2007 were finally on the come up, and it was their time to show now. Drake and Nicki Minaj became the face of a new generation. Both would go on to have rabid fan bases, some more than others, who would prop them up to the peak of hip hop, but none of that would have been possible without the support of Lil Wayne. From being brought out on tour to open for Lil Wayne and now later co-headlining with him, you couldn't ask for a better start in your career. Then while Lil Wayne was behind bars, it was time for them to prove themselves. Drake became the main focus for the Young Money Entertainment machine after his debut album Thank Me Later peaked at #1 on the Billboard 200, then dropping hits like Headlines off of his now classic album Take Care, which won the Grammy for Best Rap Album.
Well deserved.
Many were already positioning Drake to take over the reins of Lil Wayne, which was only cemented after Lil Wayne announced he was retiring after the Carter 5. And Nicki Minaj would become the queen of rap, which many would argue, but looking at her numbers and her fan base, Nicki Minaj was peaking at the time. And these 2 artists would only get bigger from there on out. So not only did Lil Wayne have a legendary career, but he also managed to build up 2 powerhouses before calling it quit. Or at least that's how I would like to end off our fairy tale. However, he didn't walk into the sunset, and this wasn't the end of Lil Wayne's career, but it is the end of this video. And if you want a part 2, drop a like.
For sure. But no, let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. Me personally, I think, like I said before, I'm say it again. Lil Wayne is the go to. No, hold on. Tupac, the go to the 90s. Lil Wayne is the go to 2000s. Drake has the 2010s. And Youngboy has the 2020s. If y'all think otherwise, go argue with your mama. But no, let me know what y'all think, and I'm gonna catch you niggas in the next one. Yes, sir.